Welcome to the Fantasy Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio, presented by Brotherwell Brewing.
It's Gronkowski back again.
Here's Paul Catalina, Steve May, and Grayson Grundhaver.
Welcome into the Fantasy Football Show here on 365 Sports, brought to you by Brotherwell Brewing. Just down the street from us right here. There's Brotherwell right there. It's fantastic and wonderful and beautiful. And it is week one of the season, guys. I'm Paul Catalini. He's Steve May. And let's welcome in the birthday boy, Grayson Grundhafer, who is 62 years old today. He looks fantastic.
Can confirm.
Yeah.
Doesn't look a day over 58.
No. And look, he looks great for 58 or 62.
I appreciate that, guys. I work out, try to keep my body in shape, you know. I'm actually 70 today.
Oh, 70. There we go. He knows. So it is week one of the fantasy football season, guys. We've been through our draft specials and all that. So I hope you took the advice. Things to look out for this week. I would say the COVID lists are going to be annoying and nagging throughout the year. 93.7% of the league is vaccinated. And again, you can still catch it if you're not vaccinated. The Cowboys have a problem this week because of Zack Martin.
Yep.
Zack Martin is vaccinated, but he's got COVID. He, I believe, is asymptomatic from what I've been able to tell, but he does not have enough time to test out of the protocol because they're playing on Thursday. So that's another thing. For Thursday games, you might lose some guys who might be completely fine by Sunday, but because of that, it kind of just another injury thing. Some of those things like, little tight muscle pulls that maybe if they didn't have a Thursday game they could play on, COVID is going to be another thing to add to that list.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a perfect storm because they announced for the Cowboys that Zack Martin would probably miss. And I think the same day, maybe the next day, they announced that Ndamukong Suh would be available. Mm-hmm. So it's like a double whammy for the Cowboys. So for Zeke, I think it affects him the most. In years past, I haven't. I'm a huge Cowboy fan, and I just never end up with a lot of Cowboys. This year was different, and I'm playing in 9 different leagues, and I think I have Zeke on 5 of those 9. It's just how the draft worked out. I was excited to get him, but obviously I'm still going to play him. You're not going to bench him, but I do think his effectiveness might be limited.
Yeah. Grayson, how are you going to approach the COVID lists with your lineups?
Yeah, well, first of all, Steve, you're going to be the kind of player I'll be targeting after week one just because I think Zeke's going to have a really bad first week.
Yep.
And that's an opportunity for maybe managers to kind of sneak in there and test the trade value of Zeke because he's going to have a fantastic year. Let's be honest. I mean, in this offense, it's going to be great. But week one, not so much. As far as how I'm approaching COVID, I mean, it's a week-by-week thing, and it's just like injuries. I mean, today, for instance, Austin Eckler, hamstring injury. He might not play. Chris Godwin wasn't on the injury report today, so he's fine, but he had a quad injury as of earlier today. I'm going to approach it the same way, and just hopefully COVID doesn't play too much of a factor on too many games. I know it kind of stinks for the Cowboys week one, that's for sure, though.
Yeah, and we'll get into on Daily Fantasy this Cowboys and Bucs game in deeper detail in the third segment, but it does open up tomorrow night, and right now, you're probably looking at your waiver wires. You're probably trying to find people if you're, maybe have some late injuries or things like that, or you don't like your depth at a certain position. Steve, in our league, I really hate my depth at running back, but I was kind of painted into a corner.
Yeah.
And so I'm just waiting for, somebody at running back to pop up and go, okay, well, this guy's definitely going to start and he's definitely going to play for this injured guy. And then I can maybe go get him. But it's tough right now this week. Who are you watching for injury-wise? I mean, it's hard to tell because the designations don't really pop until Sunday morning.
Yeah, and I think the other one that bears worth watching out for is A.J. Brown with Tennessee. I don't think he practiced today, which is usually not a good sign. So Julio Jones, who's also been banged up a little bit, but I do think he's definitely going to play. That could be something to look out for there. But the drafts for most of your leagues just happened, You drafted your studs. So this first week, don't overthink it. We'll get into start 'em, sit 'em later, but unless you just have something blatant out there that somebody's definitely going to be out. I don't think the waiver wire is too much of a factor week one. I do know people were going in and getting Le'Veon Bell because the Ravens have had just a run of bad luck here recently with J.K. Dobbins and then Justice Hill going out. So you have Gus Edwards. They needed some depth. So they got Le'Veon Bell, but he's on the practice squad. And there's no guarantee that he's going to make the roster. He is a shell of his former self. So I wouldn't be surprised if he never plays it down. But that didn't stop people from going in and grabbing him today.
No, and look, you look at most leagues, you're going to see guys like Tony Jones, is now like he moves up a little bit. So you want to handcuff yourself with Alvin Kamara or, Mark Ingram is the starter in Houston. I don't know what that even means. For fantasy players, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Grayson, what do you do this week when you're trying to you maybe get desperate because of a position you did not get to draft well in your draft?
Yeah, there's a few names. You mentioned a couple with Tony Jones, but I think Wayne Gallman had an interesting week because he's in Atlanta now. And obviously everyone was all excited about Mike Davis because of the opportunity. And I still think he's going to be the guy, but that backfield is so many question marks. So Gallman's an interesting one. I think if Eckler doesn't play this week, Justin Jackson needs to be a guy that you go and look at and try to add. He played pretty well last year when Eckler wasn't around, and he supposedly is the number 2 on the depth chart, even though they brought in, I believe, a 4th-round pick, Larry Roundtree. And then another guy that there's a bunch of interesting ones. Ramondre Stevenson in New England, I think, is another interesting one to back up Damien Harris. I think Salvin Ahmed in Miami is kind of the forgotten guy. Everyone thinks Malcolm Brown is going to be the second most used guy, but I think Salvin Ahmed might actually be one who could be pretty interesting, especially in a PPR league. So there's a lot of interesting names out there, and you definitely need to go find those guys in your leagues. Oh, didn't want to forget or leave out Tyson Williams, the running back in Baltimore. He'll be Gus Edwards' backup, and Gus Edwards has been a career backup. So if you can get Tyson Williams, you might end up with a guy who's very, very productive in a run-heavy offense.
Absolutely. And, look around, if you look at other positions, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, most of those guys that you pick up are would not play for you over anybody this week on your bench. You're just maybe hoping those guys hit later on. Running back, though, is the position that's the least deep in the entire thing. So that's why I ask, and there's a couple of injuries there. Again, Austin Eckler is seemingly always a toss-up.
Right.
I wish we need to get running back to being a position in the league that everyone has one that you can at least put in for fantasy players. I blame you, college football. I blame you for this. But and then look at Miami. Miami is a position they haven't given a crap about. As much as Miami's done to improve their team, they haven't really done anything about that position.
Yeah. Going back to the Miami running back situation, I do think Gaskin is going to end up being more of a workhorse than we maybe expected that to be. So I'm looking forward to that. Another signing that happened this week, Jacksonville signed Duke Johnson. Mm-hmm. So that could, James Robinson, nobody's really too excited about him, even though he was really solid last year. But then with Etienne going out, they were looking for some more depth, so they brought in Duke Johnson, who, if he plays, will be is typically a PPR, vulture. He'll go in and maybe get 5 or 6 grabs a game.
All right,
Carlos Hyde as well. Yeah. Yes, kind of that, because him and Urban Meyer have that connection.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break right here. When we come back, start 'em, sit 'em from Grayson and Steve. They've done a ton of work on this. It's all they ever do in their whole life. So their information is pretty dead on. Steve claims that he's never wrong about anything. He tells me that all the time.
That's true.
Yeah, he says I'm not wrong about things. Yep. So that's why he said that's why you should get a Rush tattoo. I haven't done that yet, but he says I'm never wrong about things. So when we come back, start 'em, sit 'em. This is the Fantasy Football Show on Sick'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Brought to you by Brotherwell Brewing. Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back into the Fantasy Football Show here on 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio. Brotherwell Brewing is our fantastic sponsor. And look, if you're a fan of craft beer and you're here in the 254, just right down from our studio, some of the best you can find in town. We've got the Active Faith and the Bridge Street Wit here, but so much more that you can try there at Brotherwell. And again, I'll be there on September 16th doing trivia. That's 1 week, from this show. So you will see me there, so come on down and see me doing trivia. Steve will not be available, and apparently neither will Grayson, because, it's the middle of the week, and Steve's going to be where?
Next week I will be in Chicago.
Yeah, Steve will be in Chicago.
Yep.
So he will not be available for me during trivia, and that breaks my heart. So, but I am doing that next week. All right, guys, let's get into Stardom, Situm. Grayson, let's start with you. Stardom, Situm at quarterback.
Okay, at the quarterback position, my favorite start this week is actually Jalen Hurts, the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. They travel to take on the Falcons. I think the Falcons' defense is going to be absolutely horrible. I think their offense will score some points, but defensively, I expect them to be really bad. So therefore, I think Jalen Hurts has a really, really good game. And obviously, you're going to start the top guys, but I think Jalen Hurts is a guy that you kind of maybe drafted a little bit late. You probably have two quarterbacks on your roster, and I think you should feel really confident starting Jalen Hurts this week. I would start him over Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, Trevor Lawrence, Matt Ryan, Joe Burrow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in that one. I guess as far as other guys that I also like Ryan Tannehill this week. I think that he could be one that has a nice, solid week for the Cardinals. Guys I don't like this week that I just go ahead and cross them off your radar because I don't anticipate them playing very well. Tua, I think he's going to run into some problems against New England. I think he'll have a good year, but I think against the Patriots, I'm a little concerned about that. And then the other one, it actually plays for my team, the Colts. I think Carson Wentz is going to have a very good year this year, but the guy hasn't practiced at all over the last month or so because of his foot injury, and then he got COVID, and now he has to play Seattle. I don't know if it's worth taking the risk and starting Carson Wentz this week.
All right, Steve, who you got at quarterback?
Yeah, and kind of going back to what I said earlier, don't overthink this. This is week one with your main quarterback that you drafted, wherever you drafted that person. So you're going to play them typically. But I agree 100% with Grayson. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a huge game against Atlanta. Kirk Cousins was probably not drafted as your number one quarterback, but maybe he was. So if he's your number one guy, I think that's a favorable matchup against Cincinnati. I think that could be good there. I actually like Ben Roethlisberger, too, against Buffalo because I think that could kind of be a shootout game. So I think that could be another sneaky play. But, the regular guys at the top, you're going to play them no matter what. Who I don't really like this week, I don't like Jameis too much against Green Bay.
Not enough. No Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Marquez Callaway's going to be the number one wide receiver there this week. Yeah, it's going to be tough for him.
Yep. But again, Jameis probably wasn't your number one quarterback unless you just waited really late to draft one. So I would shy away from there. I'm really down on pretty much everything Las Vegas Raiders this year. Like I could see Gruden definitely being gone at the end of this year and maybe even before the season's over.
I think Mike Mayock goes before Gruden. But
you're probably right. But so Derek Carr, they're playing Baltimore, so I just don't like that matchup there. So.
All right, Steve, go to running back, and then we'll go to Grace. We'll ping-pong this. So running back, Steve.
All righty. Running backs that I like. I do like that Philadelphia-Atlanta matchup is just going to be, to me, favorable for everything Philadelphia. We're not sure how much of the carries Miles Sanders is going to get, but he is the number one running back there. So, I'm thinking he's going to get 65, 70% of the carries. So I do like Miles Sanders this week. While he is the starter for now, I do like Raheem Mostert with the 49ers. They're playing Detroit. 49ers should get up early in that game, so that should turn into a run game, grinding out the clock. So I would definitely play him. I do think Trey Sermon will get some looks as well, but until that switches, and I do think Sermon will end up being the main running back before the season's over. Mostert is the guy to play there. Another one, I love Antonio Gibson this year. As long as they build up his numbers in the passing game, I think he has the potential to be a top 5 fantasy running back this year. So I do like that matchup against the Chargers. Who I would not play this week, I'm really down on Edwards-Helaire with Kansas City. They're playing Cleveland. Cleveland has a really good defense. And I'm just not sold on the fact that they believe in him as their main running back. So this week one will really tell a lot about how they're going to use him and what that running game in Kansas City is going to look like. So I'm not big on him this week. And like I said earlier, I'm still going to play Zeke, but I'm not going to be shocked if he ends up with only 60, 70 yards.
He might get a touchdown though. Like that Zeke,
he might sneak one.
The reason that Zeke is always an every week play, no matter how good the defense they're playing is that if they get to the 5-yard line, he's getting a ball.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether they stop in between those, if they get a big passing play and get in the red zone, Zeke's getting the ball. I think Zeke is primed for a big season though. All right, Grayson, who you got at running back?
Yeah, there's a few good names. And guys, this week, since it's week 1, I'm targeting matchups that I think are going to be really good. Obviously, we don't know everything about these defenses quite yet, but James Robinson for Jacksonville. I love him against Houston this week. I think that whole Jacksonville offense has the chance to be really, really good. I think they're going to be up early and often against Houston, so I think they're going to run the ball a ton, and James Robinson should have a really nice week. A little bit lower down the list, Raheem Mostert was a name. Steve already talked about him, but really like him this week. I also really like Chase Edmonds this week against the Tennessee Titans. I think that Tennessee does not have a very good defense. They had a little bit of a COVID problem I think it was like a month ago, and it really hindered their ability to field their entire defense. So I think they're going to be a little bit rusty, and therefore I think Chase Edmonds should have a pretty good week and be a pretty nice start. Also really like Gus Edwards, another lower down the list guy, but he gets to play the Raiders, who you already talked about, but I think they're going to be terrible this year, especially defensively. So those are some of the names of the guys that I like. As far as guys that I'm kind of staying away from, I'm a little bit, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but I'm very curious about the Rams backfield. And I kind of would rather see how it shakes out instead of starting Darrell Henderson week 1 against Chicago with Sony Michel coming in. I'm a little nervous about that matchup. Also, Damien Harris versus the Miami Dolphins. I think the Dolphins have a sneaky good defense, so I wouldn't take the risk there either in playing Damien Harris this week.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the Rams because there's 3 teams I'm really interested in watching their running game this week. In addition to the Chiefs, which I already mentioned, but Arizona, just to see what that mix is between Edmonds and James Conner. the Rams with Henderson and Michelle, and then the Lions with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, just to see how those percentages break out in this first week.
All right, Grayson, wide receivers.
Yeah, let's bounce to the wide receiver position. So let's start. So the guys that I like this week, they're a little bit lower down the radar who, might sneak up on you a little bit. This is kind of a deeper one. So you're going to have to really be taking a little bit of a risk here. While I don't like Carson Wentz necessarily this week, he has to throw the ball to somebody. And the Indianapolis Colts are going to have to throw the ball because I think Seattle will score some points on them. So therefore, I think Michael Pittman is a really nice start this week. I've gotten him in a lot of drafts. I think he's going to have a great year 2 breakout season. And I think it starts this week. I think people really start to know Michael Pittman's name. He was the only rookie last year to have over 100 yards in a playoff game at the wide receiver position. He did that at Buffalo. So I think he's going to build on that. So I really like him this week against Seattle. I like Jerry Judy for the Denver Broncos taking on the New York Giants. The Giants have a solid run defense, but their pass defense still, they have a lot of work to do there still, and I think their offense is going to be terrible. So I think Denver should be pretty favorable there. I like Jerry Judy this year, so I think he'll have a nice week 1 to get the season going. Another guy that I like that I think is going to be a target hog in his offense is Corey Davis for the New York Jets. They take on Carolina, and while I think Carolina is going to win this game pretty easily, that means the Jets are going to be playing from behind, and I think Corey Davis is going to get all kinds of targets in that matchup. As far as guys I don't like, I have a ton of Chris Godwin in all of my lineups, and I don't want to tell you not to play Chris Godwin because you probably spent a pretty good draft capital on him, but he was dealing with an injury this week. They have Antonio Brown. They have Mike Evans. I'm worried this might not be the week for him, even though I do think he is their best receiver. The injury bug just kind of concerns me a little bit with Godwin going into that matchup, even though it's a very favorable one. Another one that I'm not too high on just because I'm not too high on him really just in the system that he's in and because of the matchup is DJ Moore. I think Carolina's going to run the ball a lot. I have more trust in Robbie Anderson. And so I'm leery of starting DJ Moore pretty much any week, but especially week 1 when I'm just not really sure how that passing attack is really going to pan out with Sam Darnold.
All right, Steve, wide receivers.
All righty. Some of the ones I like this week, unfortunately, I do like Mike Evans tomorrow night against Dallas. One, I just think it's a good matchup for him. The Cowboys secondary, I think, is still kind of figuring out what they're going to be. I don't think all the positions in the secondary are firmed up yet, so I think that's an issue. So I think Evans, and with Godwin possibly being hurt, he may start, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't finish the game. So that plays well for Evans. I like Deontay Johnson with Pittsburgh against Buffalo. I think that's a good matchup. Grayson mentioned Robbie Anderson. I think that's a great matchup with Carolina going against the Jets. Nice target for Sam Darnold to get his revenge against his his former team. I like Deebo Samuel with the 49ers against Detroit. I think that's a great matchup. And then Jacksonville with Houston. I think Jacksonville is going to win that game. I like Shenault in that one as a good play. Who I'm avoiding, I didn't end up with any Tyler Lockett this year. If I was lucky enough to get a Seattle receiver, it was Metcalf. If I didn't get Metcalf, I wasn't getting anybody else. So I just have a feeling I could be totally wrong on that. He could come out and just knock it out of the park, but. So Lockett I'm avoiding. Odell Beckham Jr. with Cleveland. I want to see him being healthy. I want to see how they're going to use him. I want to see how much they're throwing the ball. I think they're going to be a run-heavy team, obviously, so I'm avoiding Beckham, at least till we get a sense of what's happening there. And then with the Giants, I'm not a big Daniel Jones fan. They're playing Denver. Denver has a good defense. So Galladay and really any Giants receiver I'm just going to avoid if I can.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate for Kenny Galladay. Galladay is a good player, and he's injured, and he might do well there, and somebody's got to catch the ball. I mean, Evan Ingram's
He might do well in spite
huge question mark, but
what's
I
around
mean,
him,
somebody's
yeah.
got to catch the ball. But the Giants, I mean, Saquon Barkley's got to be healthy and playing for that offense to really go. And we don't know about Saquon Barkley. So, all right, Steve, tight ends, and then we'll wrap it up because we'll save defenses for next week because we don't really know what defenses are yet.
Yeah. So tight end, again, if you drafted, I did 2 more drafts over the last 3 days, and in both of them, I ended up with Kelsey. That's the first teams I've got Kelsey. I was very happy. So in both those drafts, I didn't draft a backup tight end because he's good till week 12, hopefully, knock on wood. So I was able to get some more running back and receiver depth because I knew I didn't have to worry about tight end. So, Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, those are the main guys. I do like Tyler Higbee this year with the Rams. Now going up against Chicago has some good linebackers, so it might not be the greatest matchup, but I do think overall Higbee's going to have a good year. I also like Gerald Everett with Seattle. They're going up against Indianapolis. And apparently in training camp, Russell Wilson and Everett seem to really develop some good chemistry there. So I think Everett could be a good pickup. He's actually available on a lot of waiver wires right now. So if you waited on tight end, maybe don't like what you ended up with, keep an eye out for Everett. Who would I avoid? I think Hunter Henry is healthy right now, but probably not 100%. So I think Jonnu Smith will get most of the snaps there. So Henry, I'm definitely avoiding. I think Blake Jarwin with Dallas is going to end up being the main tight end eventually. But for this first week, I want to wait and just see what happens there.
All right, Grayson, what do you got at tight end?
Yeah, I mean, the guy that I like the most, not necessarily because he'll be tight end 1, but I think Kyle Pitts is about to introduce himself to the NFL this week. I think he's going to have a monster game against the Eagles. Obviously, if you draft him, you're playing him. As far as guys a little bit deeper on the list, this is a really deep one, and I'm glad you mentioned him, Steve, but I think Blake Jarwin could have a sneaky good game against Tampa Bay this week. They're paying him, and Dallas is going to have to throw this football. And I think they're going to be down early and often. So who knows? Maybe Blake Jarwin is sneaky if you're really low on options. I like him as kind of that sneaky waiver wire pickup. Another kind of sneaky one is Austin Hooper for Cleveland. They go up against Kansas City. Again, I think they're going to have to score some points in that game. And therefore, I think Hooper's actually a pretty nice pickup. I also think, he's going for really cheap right now in DFS. So I think he'd be another interesting option there as well.
All right.
Go ahead. Real quick, one more name to look out for. And even to the point where if you got a roster spot that maybe you don't mind making a switch out here, keep an eye out for Juwan Johnson from New Orleans. Troutman is the tight end there right now. I don't think they're really huge on him. Johnson, I know in Yahoo leagues, can be played as a receiver and a tight end. So you get some flexibility there. I didn't look at ESPN, but yeah, look out for Juwan Johnson, and let's see what happens there.
And Troutman is out for the first 3 weeks, I believe.
Oh, you're right. Yes, yeah.
Was he using the roids? Is that what he was doing? Or was he just hurt?
I don't know.
I don't want to accuse him of anything.
No, he got carted off actually in a preseason game.
That's right.
It ended up not being that bad, but I actually think he'll be sneaky good when he does come back. I'm pretty bought in the talent there as far as dynasty action goes. I like Troutman.
All right, when we come back, we get into daily fantasy and our weekly showdown league, which we made, some serious coin last year. I'm talking ice cream sandwich money. That's what I'm talking.
Oh, you've been holding out on me then. I didn't think we earned that much.
I'm talking 2 chili dog money.
Oh.
Not just one. 2,
I didn't see my share. Did you, Grayson?
No, Paul kept it all for himself last year, I guess.
Well, here's what we did. We rolled it in each week, and then that last week kicked our ass. So I went big.
Did you report those winnings on your IRS?
Hey, let's not. There were no winnings. That's the thing.
Okay.
That's it. So, all right. When we come back, daily fantasy and our weekly showdown that we do to try to show you how smart we are. This is the Fantasy Football Show brought to you by Brotherwell Brewing. on 365 Sports.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back into the Fantasy Football Show here on Sick 'Em 365 Radio. Paul Catalina and Steve May in studio. Birthday boy Grayson Grundhafer from our Austin Bureau. Of course, we're brought to you by Brotherwell Brewing. And by the way, Grayson, if you're in town for the game this weekend, this beer on the desk is for you.
Yes,
so you can take it back.
I will be there.
Okay, so come on by and get this beer. And it is for you, so you can take back and we can all be compliant.
There you go.
With the rules. All right, let's go ahead and quick little nice plays in daily fantasy, and then we'll get into the showdown league.
Yeah, so, with daily fantasy, lots of different places you can play. I would recommend, if you're new to daily fantasy, diving into some cash games, some head-to-head, some double-ups. Those are really easy to do instead of diving into, like, the really big tournaments right off the bat. But, really kind of the players that we just talked about, the usual suspects in daily fantasy they're going to cost you more. So like, McCaffrey is probably over 10,000 in the games that he's in. The quarterbacks, Mahomes, Kelsey. The Eagles and the Falcons game, I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. So I think you could grab some Eagles there and plug into your lineup. You could also grab, Matt Ryan might be a sneaky play in DFS because I think the Eagles are going to win that game. So the Falcons could be playing catch-up. So throwing it, Calvin Ridley might be the one guy you want to pay up for. He's going to be expensive on most sites. So that would be a game to look at. You want to look at the games where the over-under is predicted to be high. I think the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game. So Naji Harris is probably going to be pretty reasonable this week because nobody really knows what we're going to get from him. First game, rookie, so he might be someone you could plug in there. And then Deontay Johnson. Juju might be a little bit cheaper option, but I think Big Ben's going to be slinging the ball around quite a bit. And then Buffalo, those players are going to be a little bit more, but you could probably get Devin Singletary or Zach Moss for a little bit cheaper to plug into your running back spot.
All right, Grayson, just advice on guys to look out for and bargains in daily fantasy.
Yeah, so Steve actually mentioned the Bills. I think if you want to get, take a guy that's really cheap so you can maybe go for the stars and take a Christian McCaffrey. You can take someone cheap in that game. I think Gabriel Davis is an interesting one for the Bills. Again, I think Pittsburgh is going to take a step back defensively this year and probably be better offensively. So he's an interesting one. I also like Juju as well. I think the Cardinals versus Titans matchup is going to be very high scoring. That might be surprising for some to hear that, but I have a feeling about that game. Therefore, guys like Chase Edmonds, Julio Jones, I think it's a good one, especially if A.J. Brown's not playing. You should definitely pay up for Julio. He's going to have a monster game. And I just think the Cardinals in general, maybe Rondale Moore is a sneaky name that you throw in your lineup, or A.J. Green, take a shot there. I think those are some of the more interesting ones. As far as specific guys, how about Sam Darnold this week against his former team, the Jets? Him and Robbie Anderson get a little revenge factor. So Sam is another cheap option that I think would be a really, really good one.
Yeah, and that's a good one. I'm glad you mentioned that, because Matt Rule is all about his guys, whoever is on his team at the moment. So I do think he's going to do everything he can to put Darnold and to maybe a little lesser degree Robbie Anderson in a position to really shine in that game.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it, guys. Let's do
it.
Let's do what the people came here for in our DFS. All right. Grayson, since it's your birthday, you will get the first pick. In the Cowboys and Buccaneers, we do a Thursday night showdown league. It's a $50,000 cap. You pick a king, so to speak.
Yes.
And he costs you more.
Yeah.
Double the average for all of it. And then after that, you fill in after that. So you got to win this thing, you really have to hit on that guy who's going to have it. And so you have to hit on maybe a lower cost guy so you can fill out the roster with a higher cost one. So Grayson, we'll let you go first.
Yeah, there's two names that I'm looking at here, but one is just such a bargain this week. So our captain is going to be Antonio Brown. There's no doubt about it. 8,400. We are living cheap paying for him. This is the perfect play this week.
Okay.
And Bruce Arians has really been talking him up the last couple of weeks that he's looking good. So all right. I like that one.
So we have $41,600 left.
All right.
Steve, your pick.
I'm going to go with Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette at $7,000, giving us $34,600. All right. Somebody's got to kind of swing for the fences here with some Cowboys. You know what? I'm going to skip Amari Cooper, even though he's playing back in his home state. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee's going to have a fantastic season.
Who's more expensive?
Amari, but $200.
Okay.
So
I knew it'd be close.
CeeDee Lamb at $8,200. We're going CeeDee Lamb.
All right.
All right. So what do you want to do? Do you want to go snake it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So back-to-back picks. Part of the problem here is that there's not a lot of, there's a huge drop-off. Yeah. This is a team that are star-laden. So to save money on the last two picks, I'm going to go with Blake Jarwin.
That's good.
Yeah, at $5,200.
Nice. I like that pick.
What have we got left?
We have $21,200. So if you take Brady or Prescott, you still have, $10,000 to work with.
Okay. Let's go Brady.
You're going to go Tom Brady at 11-2, meaning everyone else but Dak Prescott on the board. Zeke Elliott, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, all on the board for you, Grayson.
Yeah, this is, I don't really have to go cheap here, so I guess I can just take whoever I want. I'm just so worried about Zeke this week. But he could just fall in the end zone. They're going to be playing from behind. It's either him or Mike Evans. You know what? I'm gonna say that they're gonna buck the trend a little bit. I'm gonna go with Zeke. I watched too much Hard Knocks to not pick Zeke this first week.
All right, and we have $400 left over, guys.
Wow.
So our lineup is: our captain is Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, CeeDee Lamb, Blake Jarwin, Tom Brady, and Zeke Elliott. That's entered good. For $1.
That's a good lineup.
Yes,
I like it.
There we go. So that is our lineup in the Daily Fantasy Showdown League. So good luck to all you people out there who are going to try to follow our lead. Do that. And if you run our exact same lineup and win money from us, we will send Grayson to your house.
That's right.
That's what's going to happen. He's going to be there.
Up the money.
Yeah, he's going to be there with like a claw hammer, and that's what he's just going to do. That's the kind of guy he is. That's how he looks this good at 72 years old. That's how it looks.
I don't know how it's possible.
It is.
It's a lot of traveling.
It's clean living. That's what it is. Just good, clean living. All right, that's going to do it for us. If you have fantasy questions, go ahead and tweet them to me at Paul Catalina or...
I am on Twitter at Centex, which is CENTX Commish.
All right, and Grayson is at Gray Grundhafer. Just type the name Grundhafer. It's going to pop up.
There you go.
Yeah, so there you go. But at Gray Grundhafer, and so Centex Commish and at Paul Catalina. Send us your fantasy questions, and we will read them on the show next week, or comment on this YouTube video, and we'll go back in the comments.
Where can people find the video when it's ready?
365 Sports on our NFL page. So please like and subscribe to the NFL page if you haven't done so already, which, by the numbers of it, most of you in the world haven't. So go ahead, be part of the first wave to get on our 365 Sports YouTube page. Watch the show, share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're back again next week. Have a great fantasy week.